I'm Maria Menounos, and you're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Hey yo, what's up? Welcome to this episode 2 of the show Hollywood, which of course is streamed on Netflix. The title of this show is called Hooray for Hollywood Part 2. I have my boys Gunnar and Rob on the panel with me, and we are going to be breaking down for you episode 2 of this amazing show by Ryan Murphy. So let's go ahead and get into our overall thoughts. We do have all of our segments on today's show. A little bit of news and gossip, or at least just a drop of news and a drop of gossip, and of course a special segment. But first, Gunnar, what did you think about episode 2?
Guys, I am loving this season. I'm loving this whole series. I wish it wasn't a mini series. I wish this was a full-fledged series. I'm just so excited to break it down and get into these new characters and relationships. It's going to be great.
Absolutely. What about you, Rob?
Yes, I'm loving how the puzzle pieces are starting to move together, and we're starting to get a clear picture of how Hollywood really works. It's who you know. It's not your talent. It's who you know. It's also right place, right time. And it's also, like we said in episode 1, about a changing culture and being able to adapt and change in that culture.
Absolutely. Be able to change in real time. So let's just go ahead and get into the cliffhanger. You know, we were left with a cliffhanger at the end of episode 1. Episode 2, we start with Jack being bailed out of jail even before the credits run. And Ernie is the one that comes to his rescue. And he even makes one of the things about that entire scene that kind of stood out to me. Jack was so concerned about his reputation. He's like, I'm here to be an actor. I can't have this record. And Ernie's like, listen, dude, everyone in Hollywood kind of has a record. He's like, do you remember Frank Sinatra? Well, you present this wholesome image, but really they're rotten to the core, meaning they have like a really kind of seedy past. I think that is probably one of the most accurate things stated in this whole piece. I mean, people are going to throw their tomatoes at me because I liken it unto church, but that's a whole other conversation. What did y'all think about what was said in that? Gunnar, what did you think about that?
I mean, it's like everything. Like everyone tries to be so wholesome, especially in Hollywood. I feel like that's a bit of a trope that like can be overplayed in like Hollywood-based like series, like when they're an actor and trying to do the right thing, not be shady. But like everyone makes mistakes. Even if you intentionally screw someone over, you intentionally make a bad choice. Like everybody does. It's what the news and gossip columns like rave for. It's what keeps them alive. Like they have to have this kind of information going, and nobody's perfect.
Yeah, and Rob, in the age of the John Mayers of the world, and the Little Waynes and everybody else, and TMZ and the Shade Room and all of these places, is anybody in Hollywood even trying to live up to a wholesome image? Aren't the days of Whitney, the pretend good girl, like aren't those days over? Aren't we full-fledged, twerk and smoke weed and just like live your life however you want to live it?
I agree with you 1,000%. I used to work for TMZ, and that's definitely the culture now. It's just like, hey, do what you want to do. Whatever's risque, what's not risque, who cares? It makes a good story. It makes for good entertainment. But as far as like Ernie and Jackie's conversation when they got out it, when Ernie bails Jackie out of jail, he's saying, Frank Sinatra has a record. People mess up. And that still rings true to this day. I mean, Robert Downey Jr. has been to jail more than some rappers that we know, and he's Iron Man. For real. Like I grew up seeing him go to jail. But yeah, it's all about once again, it's a changing culture, and you getting in trouble is a change in your life. It's how you move forward with that tells the greater story.
Yeah, and absolutely. And at the beginning of this episode, we know Jack is still doing the business at the gas station. Avis, who is his very first client, she then enlists his services. Not necessarily. Well, she did enlist them for sex also, but on the front end of the deal, he was to escort her to an auction. And basically, she lets it be known, like, you scratch my back, I scratch yours. He was saying that he had an audition and a table read the next day. And she was like, yo, my husband runs this whole studio. So as long as you take care of me and you take care of me good, I got you tomorrow. And he went ahead and gave her the business. So, I think, and he looks like, he was focused in on those Oscars. So he kept his eyes on the prize, like literally kept his
Literally.
eye on the prize. Just real quick before I get deeper into this episode, because I feel like thoughts may change over the course of this show. Do you think you could ever, at any point, if somebody said, hey, I can guarantee you a role in a movie, Oscar-winning movie, could you focus on the prize like Jack and make it happen? What do you think, Gunnar? Could you ever?
This episode gave me that mindset to respect it. I think what's the nice way of saying, like, I guess lack the goal, can follow through with it. I don't think I have that kind of attitude, but I know I say it, I know I try to embody that as much as possible, and also I respect it. Like, as much as some people say, like, oh, it's cheating or it's like conniving, but I'm like, you're making relations, networking in essence of it all, business.
Yeah.
And I respect that. And so, and he was looking at the trophies the whole time, so it's fine. It didn't really count. It's fine.
It's fine. I mean, listen, in the world of the Cardi B's of the world, sometimes you have to strip and hit that pole and do what you got to do, as long as you have a clear in and a clear out. Rob, what you think?
The
The jury's still out.
You'd probably have to ask me this question after I had a drink or two.
Okay, cool.
Sober Rob is like, nah, I think I have integrity. I'm an artiste, you know?
Yes. Come
Drinking
on.
Rob is like, okay, is Halle Berry giving me the deal? Because I would
It
do whatever's
depends
told.
on.
Wait, that was on the table? Okay, wait, now I got
See, because I didn't tell you who was making the offer. I just said somebody made the offer.
No, but I think if
also,
we're on that situation, I think if we're really, really hungry, you know, if you're really hungry and you got to get somewhere, who knows what a human will do?
who knows? Listen, like we said in episode 1, his back was against the wall. You know, he has a pregnant wife. They're having twins. They were broke. She was the only one working. At some point, you have to step up to the plate. You know, I think a lot of us have the freedom because I can't speak for y'all, but I'm single. And so it's like, I don't have the pressures of a family. Like, I got to provide for this family. So yeah, I can still, you know, I can still say no to a lot of things just because, you know, my back's not against the wall like that. So we did meet some more characters in this episode. We got a little bit more familiar with Camille, who's an aspiring actress. She's actually the only, I guess, Black actress that has a contract with Ace Studios. And then we also met Raymond Ainsley, and he is a screenwriter. And he's actually dating Camille. They're like an interracial couple, which back in the 40s was completely, you know, scandalous and taboo and all of that. And so Raymond wants to make a film with an Asian lead, and basically all of Hollywood is telling him no. What are your thoughts on, because this is once again Ryan Murphy showing the discrimination both through Camille's storyline and through this storyline of Roy trying to make this film with this Asian lead. What are you thinking about the way that Ryan is approaching discrimination, as I alluded to in the first episode, Rob? What do you think about that?
Well, once again, we're getting broad strokes, but we're getting broad strokes, but this time we got a little bit of advancement on these strokes. And the reason why is because we did it through the eyes of a character who was trying to make a movie with a specific type of person on screen to reach across multiple audiences to try to change the culture. And that person, you know, who's trying to get the movie made is half Asian. So he has a little bit more skin in the game. And we see him striving for that. We get that innocent, you know, the striving with a good cause before we get to the Hollywood portion of it, you know, just to the business. And I think with Ryan Murphy, here is showing a little bit of probably what he went through himself you know, with this, because when you got to think about it, years ago when he did Nip Tuck was a different type of show, but it was also with straight, you know, predominantly straight characters. And then you get to his later work and you start to see all kinds of representation across the spectrum. And I think that's what we're showing here. You know, I think that might be him saying, hey, to us, like, hey, I had to make these kinds of movies so I can make these kinds of movies and TV shows now.
Yeah, and Gunnar, what do you think about that topic?
And I think it was very important of using Darren Chris's story, like personal story, being a mixed person and being passing. I think that showed a very important portion of it as well. especially being someone who I'm most like both being both white and Hispanic, but obviously passing and very easily showing, and both of us in that sense that trying to be that representation, be a part of that community, but also getting by so easily because no one recognizes it, and that issue that comes even within that identification, in the sense that like you have it so much easier. You don't look like me. You don't have to look apart. I have to like I don't need to look Asian. I am, and you can get by as playing any role you want. And then also even in the sense of like they would have a storyline where like he was playing an Asian character, he can just be saying it and everyone's fine with it because he doesn't actually look it, and that is showing the other aspect of Hollywood and what people care about was what it looks like.
Yeah, and I think that you just hit the nail on the head for me, which is even within, and I hate using the word minority because it's such a, to me, a negative word, but even within the brown and black communities, there's still a level of, segregation and separate, especially if you're mixed, if you don't look like whatever that demographic is. So if you don't look black, or people have to try to, I hear all the time, what are you? Are you mixed? Yeah, so I love how even within tackling just the normal black and white issues, he's even tackling the mixed issue as well. So then we look at May Wong, who is this actress that I almost called him Ryan, that Raymond wants to put as the lead in the Asian film that he's making, and they talk about how she is the one person in Hollywood who she was like the one Asian movie star who was cast or who they were did a read for a film, and she was perfect. The screen test, I believe, is what they called it, and she was the best one, hands down, without question. But she got passed up for the role. And when I saw that story, I think of almost every ethnic person in Hollywood probably has that story. I'm sure Taraji has a million stories like that. I'm sure Vivica and Gabrielle Union and all of these women, Viola Davis, and you pick someone, America Ferrera, like they all have stories like that. Do you think, obviously, I think I know the answer to this. One, have you guys experienced this? And do you think that it's still that prevalent today in Hollywood with that whole story? What do you think, Rob?
Yeah, I think that will be prevalent for a long time, because there's always going to be like a role, that is for a certain person, and then when the minority is cast, it seems like it's done with like some kind of justification. Like we needed a person, to fit this type of demographic versus it being organic, and I think there's been tons of progress since the
Oh,
times,
absolutely. Yeah.
and I think it can only get better. But my only hope is that it doesn't go to the point where we're starting to get people for cliche,
Right.
just to fill
Right.
in a block. That's what we don't want.
It should always be talent first. And I
Yeah.
could feel her pain when the scene where they were at the Oscars and she had to sit there and watch the other person who she knows that she was better than win an award for a role she should have got. I felt her pain. Gunnar, what did you take away from that scene?
It's how you said, like Gabrielle Union. I think she has an interview where that's happened to her, and like you could probably name any woman of color who probably has had that issue, even if they don't know it. And that's the other hard part, is that like I kind of like to almost say like maybe they don't realize what they're doing. Like I know that's definitely probably most of those stories, they for sure know exactly what they're doing. They know like, oh, you're like how with Camille, how she hears from the producers, like I think I'd be great for this role. Oh no, honey, that's a white lady role. Like you're not. I'm like, probably so many people actually heard that to the faces, and it's just awful to know that. And I like how the diversification is coming, and kind of how you said, I feel like at times they're there and it's like important and they're showcasing. I'm like, okay, but do they match the role? Are they talented enough for the role? But then we have other stories like Hallie and Chloe, who are being casted for the Little Mermaid, the Black Little Mermaid, and having the first one, and that true representation, just like this role can be played by anyone. It's just a matter of talent. She has the acting, singing talent, so let's show the representation and diversification.
And with Miss Wong, her role, like it was an Asian character,
Literally,
Right.
yeah.
and they flat out like whitewashed it. It just it's sad to see her, watch a white person play an Asian role and get an Oscar for it, while you watch from a box, you watch them get that award. That had to hurt.
Absolutely. Gunnar, were you about to say something? Did you want to add to that before we?
Exactly, because it reminds me of in Orange is the New Black, and the same kind of storyline happens. at a school where it's predominantly white, and they do showgirls, and the whole cast is white, and it's just not even. I'm like, that's not the story that is for an all-white cast. It's for like women of color and Black women. Like, that's their story and their cast. It's not the same thing, and it's not gonna be the same storyline.
Yeah, well, you know what was interesting to me was after the I guess he was a studio head, studio exec, kind of gave that story. Then Raymond was like, "Oh, I felt so bad for her and all of this," and he was like, "Well, why? The movie was a hit." And they had this whole conversation and this discussion on what makes a picture a hit. It was like, if we had casted this woman of color as the lead, it would have never worked. It would have flopped, and it wouldn't have been a hit. And his whole thought was, well, how do you know? Because you didn't cast them to find out. So is that how we determine, like, what is your definition of a hit movie? Is a hit movie superb acting that does get the accolades and that does get, you know, the box office numbers? Or is a hit movie just a great story that's told with a beginning, middle, and end? What do you think, Rob?
Yes, I agree that the story is told with a great middle, beginning, and end. But at the same time, there is a business aspect, and in no way, shape, or form am I playing devil's advocate. But you can see it. You can see who is putting butts in the seats. And even Ridley Scott, you know, when he made Exodus, the whole story with the where he had a story set predominantly in the Middle East, and he had a bunch of like white actors. And when people came to him about it, he said a very real thing. He said, "Who is going to finance this movie with Muhammad such and such, and so on and so forth? Who would help finance it?"
Yeah,
he had a point. So he had to get Christian Bale and Joel Edgerton just to sell.
Yeah, that's true. And I think that happens a lot too. There, you know, a lot of times they might cast someone, but we need a bigger name.
Yes.
I know it happens in music, which is, I come from the world of radio. And so I know that they will have certain people on a song, but then just to get the ears and the streams, oh, we're gonna take this rapper off and we're gonna throw in, you know, somebody with a bigger name just because we know they have like 18 million followers on Instagram or whatever the case may be. So we fast forward in this episode, and Ellen Kincaid, she gets Jack a contract. She sees his screen test. She says it's, you know, they all agree it's one of the worst. He's not even facing the camera most of the time. You know, he's yelling at the actors. She's scared to death. I mean, it was comical to us, but I can only imagine how painful it would have been to actually be on set or on stage with him if he's screaming at you. But my question is, where did Ellen Kincaid come from? Like, why was she so dead set on going to bat? I guess that's what I missed, and I'm missing that link. So how does she fit into this story? Somebody fill that piece in for me.
Well, remember after they leave, later on in the episode, you see Archie, Jackie, and Raymond together.
Right.
And they're talking with Kincaid and his John. Well, his Jackie's John, which is his customer. He sees her together with those. So that she just basically made the call and said, "Hey."
Oh. Yeah.
Oh my God.
That's why all three of them are together at the end.
Oh wow. I was totally going with the mindset like, you know, she sees talent, she sees it, like she just like knows he's a good actor. It's like that, it's the like miracle dream. I was like, oh, that was the phone call she made. That's who she called so that Jack would.
Gotcha. Because listen, I didn't get that connection either. Yeah.
I was just thinking it was a matter of just like, oh, she just sees it in him. She like, you just know when you know, and like you can't explain sometimes. I was like, oh, that's what it was.
And so also they talk thanks for clearing that up, because you see, I had completely missed that. So another thing that I thought was pretty dope was when they were giving we had the group of ladies in a room and they were teaching you how to speak and not hit words. They teach this a lot in journalism. If you do broadcast journalism, they teach you, you know, not to say police and you say police. Like there's certain ways that you enunciate words. And so of course I appreciated it. But when they were talking, they called it the mid-Atlantic accent. I actually had never heard, I didn't know of it as mid-Atlantic. Had you guys heard of that before?
I had.
I've heard the word mid-Atlantic, but never as an accent or really like thought anything of it. Nor did I ever think about, oh yeah, nobody lives in the mid-Atlantic. That's not a thing.
Right.
Like, oh yeah.
Yeah, Mid-Atlantic
Right.
is almost bougie. It's almost bougie English. It's
Whitney,
like right
listen,
below bougie.
right? I, as an obsessive person of entertainment, I used to love watching interviews and watching little things, and so I noticed back in the day, Whitney went from, and as you know, I'm gonna talk. They're always gonna be a Whitney Houston reference, but Whitney used to. She started speaking regular, and then at one point there was like this slight accent, and I'm like, wait, where did she pick up this like British accent? And now, however many years later, I'm like, oh, maybe she was trying to do this mid-Atlantic thing. It's a cross between British and American with a little something mixed in. So anyway, I just thought that was a little point of reference I wanted to take for Whitney. So anyway, Jack gets caught cheating. His wife kind of catches him. He comes in late yet again, and she does the smell test. And for those of you that don't know what the smell test is, you have to watch the episode and figure it out.
Yes.
But she does the smell test, and she catches him right in the midst of, finishing a job. And then she begins to have these severe, I'm going to call them cramps. They didn't really call them anything on the episode, but something that endangers the lives of their babies. What was your thought when that was going on? What was going through your mind, Gunnar, when he walked in the door and he's in the bathroom and he's showering and then he turns the corner and boom, there's his wife? What was going through your mind?
At first, I mean, I felt for her just like Jack did. I was thinking like, oh, it is hormones. It's the part of the pregnancy. Like women sometimes go through that. They get like excessive like urges, whatever. Like, all right, cool. Like, well, this will be good. Let's see him like recover, and then have to deal with the whole like, you don't think I'm attractive, so I'm pregnant, like that kind of storyline. And I said, oh snap, he got her. I was like, oh damn,
Yeah.
oh no. And then when it happened, I said, oh please don't lose these children. Please don't lose these children right now. And then when they didn't, I thought it was going to be a bit more of like a plot point that he's going to have to like fight between it and either confess what's going on or be like, I'm not cheating on you. I just can't explain why. So I was a little let down there, but I'm going to be very interested to see where this goes. If it's going to be a continuous thing, if she kicks him out, what's going to be happening.
Yeah. And like we brought up in the last episode, he has to provide for his family. And this is the only work. Hollywood can be a tricky place. Sometimes you can't even get just a little job on the corner. So you got to do what you got to do to make these ends meet. He has twins on the way. Rob, how are you feeling when you saw him come around the corner and the wife was right there, especially as a writer? What was going through your mind?
I had a feeling she was going to be waiting around the corner for him, because with this series so far, each episode has been really good about staying in the era of like the 40s and 50s, and also with the filmmaking style and the type of movies that influenced people in those times. And one common trait you would see is in a movie, some guy sneaking back in or a wife sneaking back in. The husband or the wife is sitting there waiting under a light, the one overhead lamp, that kind of deal.
Absolutely.
But when the whole pains with the babies came, that kind of worried me, because I was like, okay, wow, this is gonna suck for him, because all of this stuff he's been doing is in vain. He did all these things. He changed himself to be a provider. Did dark things, and now he's about to lose the thing that he cared about the most. But once again, we see that she doesn't lose them just yet. And doctor having a real talk with him, like, hey, if you're out there screwing around, stop screwing around, keep your wife happy, if you wanted to have the children.
But how am I going to do that if I got to provide for my family? And speaking of that, I want to real quick get into the whole storyline with Archie and Roy / Rock, which anyway, it's a great storyline. And so Roy comes back to the gas station. He can't get enough of Archie. They go and they have their moments, and Archie kind of clarifies they are not boyfriends, they're not dating, they're not anything, because they can't even do the things that boyfriends do, which is be seen together, which is, hold hands, which is just be their companions for each other. And then I'm kind of tying two things in together for time. And then also, Roy has a meeting with an agent. The agent basically loves him, his look, but wants to change everything about him, which is a common thread here in Hollywood. I feel like the moment you get here, they being some people, want to change everything about you, from your name to your hair to everything. What was your thoughts with all of that? Gunnar, you can go first on this one.
I love this relationship. I don't know why. I've never clicked with the relationship so fast, and like, because I feel like it was like you long for like the kind of like when they're both, because they're kind of both each other's like side piece in a sense, and it's not a relationship obviously. And I really respect the maturity and the bit of like realism that comes in Archie's mind, that like you can't do it, and it shows even like even going, he's like just factoring just the fact of being a gay couple, like not factoring in like a mixed relationship and that being such an important issue, like in the 40s and 50s, it's still, that still would be a big thing, even if she would have been a woman. And that could have been the same conversation, that would have been a girl, and how that shows that kind of symbolism of it. And that he's like, I don't get that luxury, so this isn't gonna be, and I'm not gonna like let myself get hurt or whatever. But then they have this cute little moment with reading those lines, and I was just like, I don't care what you guys call each other, just like, just don't break up, don't stop seeing each other, you guys are adorable. Oh, but just Henry Wilson is just a character. I can't wait to see what happens next with this guy, because I'm terrified.
I feel you. I feel you. What about you, Rob? What were you thinking with all of that name change and all?
Yes, so I like the relationship between Rock and Archie, because they revealed that Archie hasn't even been charging him to have those dates
Right.
with him, which means he's doing it because he likes it.
Which he
And
said it at the beginning of, it's not to cut you off, at the beginning of
right,
episode 1, when he kind of brought him in, he was like, well, I might as well make money because I'm doing it for free anyway.
hmm
Yeah.
but I love the fact that he's found a guy that he like, and he's still exploring, seeing where this is going to go, because of course they try to have a conversation about it and it didn't go the right way, and you get that Archie displays the type of value that he has for Rock, which is not much at the point, but he left it open-ended where they could possibly move to something greater. And then also I like the transition from the whole post coitus conversation to now running lines. That's some real cool LA stuff,
Absolutely.
That's some
Absolutely.
really cool LA stuff. But first, I want to talk about Mr. Wilson, Jim Parsons' character. He's my favorite character on the show so far. His introduction and how he calls out Rock Hudson on everything,
Everything. He
especially
said
when
the
he's
way
joking
you
about
switched,
how
into
That
this
I
hit
writing.
was
Yeah.
dying.
so, I was just like,
I mean, he called him and me. I was like, who calls anyone out like this? Like, whoa. Okay.
How could Rock even be in any more denial after that? Like, why would he even hesitate? Like, this
Yeah.
guy's called you out. He had you dead to rights, man.
Absolutely. Okay, so we know we can talk about this forever. So let's go ahead and get into some news and then our special segment. Connor, do you have any news? Did anything happen in the last 2 hours that we need to know about from the last time that we
oh
chatted
my
this,
gosh,
this
guys, I'm just
fall?
kidding. Oh my gosh, so many things happen. I'm just kidding. But fun little fact of trivia about the show is this is Darren Chris's and Ryan Murphy's third production together in projects, being the first Glee, then American Horror Story, and now this. So
Oh
yeah, it's
wow.
clearly a favorite, and they have good chemistry together, obviously, as they've created some great works, being those three shows.
They're like the Kenny Babyface and LA Reid of TV making at the moment. Rob, what do you have for us in our special segment?
Yes, for my special segment, I will have the second installment of the AfterBuzz TV True Hollywood Story Trivia.
Let's do
Once
it.
again, I said last episode that we're keeping points. Right now, the only person with points is the Tyler Tyson.
For now, for now,
Hopefully,
for now.
hopefully Gunner can get on the board. Once again, I'll be asking three questions. This time, I'll be asking three questions. Each of them are worth different amounts of points. One's worth 1, one's worth 2 points, and one's worth 3 points. So we'll go ahead and get into it. The first one is worth 1 point. Someone should get this one because you guys live in LA. So which
Watch me
famous
go through it.
okay, so which famous director owns the New Beverly Theater in Los Angeles? I'll give you three choices. You have A, James Cameron, B, Quentin Tarantino, or C, Michael Bay.
I'm gonna go Tarantino.
I'm
Ding,
going.
ding, 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 ding.
Oh my gosh.
I was gonna be wrong because I was going A.
Gunner's on the board.
And I almost,
Come
and I
on.
was like, I just heard Quentin Tarantino. I was just like, okay, I'm gonna trust my best friend because she's obsessed with Logic, and Logic is obsessed with Tarantino. So I'm like, I'm gonna trust that. So Emily, that was for you.
Good, good, good. All right, so
Uh,
Gunner, you got 2 points. I got you. I wrote this down. Oh, excuse me, 1 point. So that one was worth 1 point because it was multiple choice. The second question, and I apologize, it's a little bit of a dark question, but hey, this is the AfterBuzz TV True Hollywood Stories trivia. Okay, so for 2 points, on August 19th, 2012, a famous director killed himself by jumping off the Vincent Thomas Bridge. Who was that director? And I'll give you a hint. His brother is also a famous director. I'll ask the question one more time, give you guys a little bit more time to think. Once again,
don't everyone jump in at once.
August 19th, 2012, a famous director, Hollywood director, killed himself by jumping off the Vincent Thomas Bridge. Who is that director? This time I'll give you 2 hints.
I know the
His
answer.
brother- Oh, okay.
Producer Ryan.
Go ahead,
Coming
Ryan.
in hot.
Who
Producer
is
Ryan
that?
coming in hot.
And did you use Google?
I'm going to build it up. I did not use Google. I know the answer to this.
Oh, okay.
He's the brother of another famous filmmaker who made Alien, Blade Runner, Gladiator. That's Ridley Scott. The man who jumped off, though, is Tony Scott, director of... Am I right or wrong?
Top Gun.
Top Gun. Tony Scott.
Did not know
Shout
that.
out to
I
Top
did not
Gun.
know that.
I'll be straight up. I didn't know out of those names. You could say those names to me right now, and I'd be like, who? I'm so bad with directors and producers, so.
Wow.
Well, this is Producer Ryan signing back off.
Thanks, Ryan.
Best
And
producer
guys,
around, everybody. Best producer.
I threw that question in there because this episode, we were going over suicide. Peg jumped off of the Hollywood sign, and Archie's trying to get it made, and he does get it made, and there's some light being brought to that, that disease.
It's a common thread in this entertainment business. It can be a very, very, very dark business.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter who you are. Tony Scott directed Top Gun. That's like one of the most famous movies of all time. But
look how popular and beloved. Like, I loved Robin Williams, and look what happened. Like, it's just a common thread. It happens, unfortunately.
It's sad. But we have to move on to the next question, which is a happier one. Very happy. So this one is for 3 points. 3 points. All right. So
all right.
On January 1st, New Year's Day, 2017, the letters on the Hollywood sign were illegally changed by an artist. What did the sign say after he changed the letters?
Hollyweed.
Hollyweed.
We both said it. We both.
Yeah.
He had his
All
hand
right,
raised. I blurted it out. We both said it.
You guys both said it, so you guys will get but 1 point apiece. It was worth 3. Ooh. Okay. Okay, so this one was worth 3 points.
Why can't we both just get 3 points? We both are
Yeah, give both 3 points.
You know what? I'm feeling generous. Both of you get 3 points. Both of you get 3 points. Go.
I did not know it was legally changed. I saw the joke or whatever on social media, and I thought it was just like somebody like edited it or whatever. And then I saw someone did a throwback of I will never forget waking up at 7 a.m. to go see this to make sure I saw it before it got taken down. I was like, wait, that really happened?
That was epic. That was epic.
Let me give you a little context inside that. This guy was an art student, and he changed it for an art piece. He turned himself in on the 10th, and since he didn't really break anything, they only charge him with trespassing.
Good. Yeah, I remember when that happened.
Yeah.
I thought it was dope, actually.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was
Me
awesome.
too.
I thought
My
it
Twitter
was really
broke.
cool.
My Twitter broke.
Yeah.
I remember Steve-O took a picture of it super quick. He took a selfie under it.
Yeah. That's awesome. I love this.
So
Can we just do this game all the time? Just bump the show. Let's just do trivia.
Hey, why not?
All right. So real quick, I know we're coming up to the end of the show. So let's go ahead and get into our predictions. So Gunnar, I'm going to start with you. What are your predictions for episode 3?
Well, thanks to this trivia game, it gave my prediction with question 2. And since I have a weird thing with theme songs is that I always watch it on the first episode, and then if I'm streaming it, and on the very last episode I'll watch it again. But the rest of the time I always skip it because I want to get into the show. But if you've watched the theme song, you see that they climb it, and since this movie is about Peg jumping off of it, I think the end of the season somebody's gonna jump off that Hollywood sign.
Oh, okay. Like in the opening credits.
like, well, not an opening. Yeah, I think someone at the end of the season is going to jump off to commit suicide because for whatever reason, maybe it's a bad reason or they're overwhelmed. But well, I mean, there's not a good reason to jump off the Hollywood sign. But that's what I think is going to be. It's a big like metaphor for it. It's going to come like full circle type thing. So,
okay. Rob,
Yeah.
what about you?
Yeah, I'm with Gunnar. Somebody's gonna die from this. They're showing it too much. So someone is gonna die. That's Chekhov's gun. You know, you show that gun in a frame, you have to do something with it in another frame. One thing I think that's gonna happen. I do think Ernie's gonna get arrested for some reason. I have a feeling Ernie's gonna get arrested. I think
okay.
that whole the service station thing is gonna go up in flames. And I think a lot of people are going to be implemented, and we're going to see not only people being discriminated against, you know, because of color of their skin, but now we're going to start to see people being discriminated against because they are gay. And I think we're going to explore some of that because this was the 40s, 50s. And once again, that wasn't cool back then. And we're going to show it.
Yeah, I'm really, so my issue with predictions is that it's hard for me to say and then be wrong because I hate being wrong. So I almost don't like to give my predictions. But I will say this: I think for some reason I am watching Claire Woods. I mentioned her before we even got on this chat. I'm watching her. For the audience, that's the woman, that the blonde that kind of is the rival of Camille, the Black actress. I just, for some reason, she just kind of gives me a by any means necessary. I don't care whose neck I have to step on in my stiletto heel. I am going to the top, and I just feel like she's up to something. So I think that she's just going to be a troublemaker amongst this group, and I'm low-key excited to see what type of trouble she creates for everyone. So that's kind of my prediction. But thank you guys so much for tuning in with us. We have to go, but why don't you guys tell them where they can follow you on social media? Rob, let's start with you this time.
Yes, you can find me on Instagram, not Twitter, Instagram at Rob Stilo. That's ROBSTEELO.
And you can find me guys on Twitter and Instagram at the Gunnar Thomas. And Ryan, where can find you at? Where's find you at, producer?
You can follow me at Ryan Nilsson on Twitter and Instagram.
Oh, there you go. I'm gonna go follow him right now. And of course, you can get your entire life following me on all social media at the Tyler Tyson. Thank you guys so much for checking us out. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, give us a like, and of course our 5 stars if you're listening on any of the streaming services. And please follow AfterBuzz TV on Instagram and Twitter as well. And we'll see y'all Sunday. Peace.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.